The man's boots hit the wooden steps with a low thud. Each creak echoed in the cellar as the evening light thinned behind him. He stopped halfway down, head tilted. He had heard it again. Small steps. Too light to be his. Too steady to be Rat's. "Who's down there?" His voice cracked, thin in the stale air. No answer, only the faint smell of earth and mildew. He clenched the rail and stepped down slower. The sound came again. Tap, tap, like bare feet against the dirt. "Ruth?" he called, though he knew his sister never set foot down here. At the bottom he froze. A child stood near the far wall, half in shadow, no taller than his knee. Small hands clutching something dark, heavy. The man's breath stuck in his throat. It was his old wedding hat. The brim sagged with dust, but he knew it. The stain on the crown where she once dropped stew. The tear from the night he swung at the fence and missed. The hat he buried in a trunk years ago, when the marriage ended with dirt and silence. The child's fingers squeezed the brim tighter. "Where'd you find that?" he muttered, voice low, almost begging. The toddler did not speak, only stared, eyes too calm for such a small face. He took a step forward. His boot sank slightly in the dirt. "Give it here." The child didn't move. Behind him, the cellar door creaked open. His sister's voice cut sharp. "Who are you talking to?" He jerked back, nearly tripping on the step. He turned, but she was already on the stairs, her face lined with suspicion. "Don't come down," he snapped. "Why not?" "Just don't." Her eyes narrowed. She looked past him into the dark. "What's in here?" He swallowed. "Nothing you need to see." "Then why are you sweating like a thief?" He turned back. The corner was empty now. No child, no footsteps, just the old dirt wall and broken crates. But the hat remained. It lay in the dust where the toddler had stood. He walked over slowly, bent down and lifted it. His hand trembled. The weight felt wrong, heavier than cloth should. "Are you hiding something?" Ruth's voice dropped low. He didn't answer. She stepped off the stairs, ignoring him, her skirt brushing against the dirt floor. "What's that?" He showed her the hat. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked at it as if it were a wound. "That's hers." "I know. You swore you burned it." "I thought I did." "You're lying." "I'm not." His voice rose. "I put it in the trunk, buried the trunk myself. It shouldn't be here." The silence pressed heavily between them. The cellar seemed smaller, the air tighter. Ruth's eyes darted to the corners. "You heard something, didn't you?" He looked at the dust still shifting near the wall. His voice came rough. "Steps." "Whose steps?" "Too small for mine." Her arms crossed. "You see ghosts again." He clenched the hat tighter. "Not a ghost. A boy. Little one." "There's no boy here." "I saw him." "You didn't." "I did." His words hit like stones. Her jaw hardened. "Then where is he?" He looked down at the dirt floor, the hat in his hand, the emptiness around them, his throat locked. "Gone," he whispered. Ruth stepped closer, eyes fixed on the hat. "That's a curse in your hand. You keep it. It'll eat you." "You think I asked for it?" "You never let go." He looked at her, face pale. "You think I wanted to see him?" She didn't answer. The cellar door banged in the wind above. Both flinched. Dust fell from the beams. He set the hat on a crate. It slumped, brim folding like a mouth shut tight. Ruth's voice dropped softer now. "Tell me what you really saw." He stared at the corner. "A child, holding this, looking right at me." "What did he want?" "I don't know." "You sure it wasn't just you?" "I know what I saw." She studied his face, searching for cracks. "Then you better pray you never see it again." He rubbed his hands down his shirt, trying to rid himself of the weight. The cellar walls felt closer, like they were leaning in. "Let's go up," she said. He nodded but didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the hat. Ruth sighed, grabbing his arm. "Leave it." He pulled back. "Number if it comes back. It's for me." "For you? Or against you?" He didn't answer. They climbed the stairs, each step groaning under their weight. At the top, Ruth pushed open the door. Light spilled in, thin and bruised with dusk. He glanced back one last time. The hat still sat on the crate. For a moment, he thought he saw small footprints pressed in the dust near it. Bare, round, unmistakable. When he blinked, they were gone. Ruth touched his shoulder. "Close it. Don't look back." He shut the door. The cellar swallowed the hat in silence. They sat at the kitchen table, oil lamps flickering between them. Ruth poured him water, though her own hand shook. "Tell me the truth," she said. "I did. You left her down there once. Are you going to leave her again?" His jaw clenched. "Don't. She died in that dress. You left the hat too." "I said don't." His fist hit the table. The lamp quivered. Her eyes did not flinch. "The dead don't stay buried here." He leaned back, breath ragged. "Then what was he?" "Not him." She shook her head. "Her." He frowned. Number it was a boy. She was carrying when she left. The words struck him like a hammer. He froze, staring. "You knew," Ruth said. His chest tightened. "I didn't." "You chose not to." He lowered his head, voice breaking. "She never told me. She didn't need to." He pushed back from the table, pacing the floor. "That doesn't explain why he had the hat." Ruth's eyes followed him. "Maybe he wanted you to remember." He stopped, gripping the chair back. "Remember what?" Her voice dropped low. "What you lost." The lamp sputtered. The shadows stretched across the walls, long and thin, reaching like arms. He closed his eyes. The sound came again in his head. Tap, tap. Small steps, bare feet. His voice barely rose above a whisper. "Where'd you find that?" But the child never answered. Only silence thickened. The knock hit like a hammer. 3 sharp raps against the cellar door. The man and Ruth froze in the kitchen. The oil lamp flickered. Neither spoke. The knock came again, louder. Ruth whispered, "He knows." The man's hand tightened around the edge of the table. "Don't say it." The third knock rattled the wood. A voice followed, rough and low. "Open up." Ruth shook her head. "Don't." The man stood, chair scraping the floor. He walked heavily to the door. His palm hovered over the latch. The voice pressed closer. "You got company there?" He drew a breath and pulled it open. The sheriff filled the frame. Broad shoulders, hat low, badges dull in the lamp glow. His eyes swept the room, then down the steps toward the cellar. "You hearin' things down there?" the sheriff asked. The man didn't answer. The sheriff stepped inside without waiting. Ruth stayed stiff by the table, arms folded. "You knock in my house like you own it," she snapped. The sheriff looked at her, unimpressed. "Quiet, Ruth," she bristled. "Don't tell me to be quiet." The sheriff turned to the man. "I've been hearing talk, strange noises, folks whisperin', land disputes rising again, debts unsettled. The governor wants answers." The man said nothing. The sheriff's gaze slid to the corner of the table. The wedding hat lay there, slumped in dust. His eyes narrowed. "That hat's yours, ain't it?" His voice came sharp, almost cutting. The man stared at it. His throat tightened. "Not anymore." The sheriff stepped closer, picked it up by the brim, turned it in his hands. "Looks like yours. Smells like yours." "It's not." "Where'd it come from, then?" The man's voice cracked. "Downstairs." The sheriff tilted his head. "Cellar?" "Yeah." "You keeping things down there?" "No." "You sure?" "I said no." The sheriff set the hat back on the table. His eyes pinned the man like nails. "People say this land ain't yours fair. Old family deals. Blood debts unpaid. You think I don't hear it?" Ruth snapped. "That land's been ours since before you carried that badge." The sheriff ignored her. "Governors don't agree. He wants proof. Says your father signed things he shouldn't." The man stiffened. "My father's dead." "Death doesn't clear debt." The room fell heavy. The lamp hissed. The sheriff leaned closer. "Tell me what I'll find if I walk down into that cellar." The man's hands curled into fists. "Dirt. Nothing else." "You sure?" "Yes." The sheriff waited. His silence pressed harder than his words. Ruth broke it. "He doesn't owe you answers. Get out." The sheriff turned slowly toward her. "You talk too much." She stepped forward. "You listen too little." His jaw flexed. "You want me to haul him in tonight?" "You try." Her voice cut like steel. The sheriff's eyes shifted back to the man. "She's got more fight than you ever did. Funny, considering." The man's face burned. He stepped between them. "Leave her out." "Then you talk." "There's nothing to say." The sheriff's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Then why are you sweating like a thief?" The man swallowed. His voice came low. "Because you ain't here for the truth. You're here for blood." The sheriff stared at him, then glanced again at the hat. He tapped it once with his finger. "Looks like the past crawled up to your table." The man's voice shook. It ain't mine anymore. It doesn't matter. It still fits your head. The sheriff let the words hang, then walked to the door. His boots struck the floor hard, echoing like the earlier knocks. He paused at the threshold. I'll be back. Governor, too. Make sure your debts are ready. The door slammed behind him. Silence spread like cold. Ruth let out a shaky breath. He saw it. The man nodded. He wanted to. She gripped the back of the chair. We can't let him come back here. He will. Then what? He looked at the hat. We bury it again. Ruth shook her head. Won't matter. It already found you. He sat, burying his face in his hands. The cellar seemed louder now, as if something still stirred below. Tap, tap. Ruth's eyes darted toward the floorboards. You hear that? He didn't look up. Yeah. Don't tell me it's rats. It ain't. Her face hardened. Then what is it? He raised his head slowly. His eyes were red. The boy. There is no boy. I saw him. You only think you did. His voice cracked. He was holding it. Ruth stepped back, shaking her head. You're cursed. Maybe. She whispered, It's her child, isn't it? His silence told her enough. The sound came again. Tap, tap, faint, from deep below. Ruth gripped the table. We can't stay here. He stared at the hat. We ain't got anywhere else. The lamp sputtered, flame stretching, then steady again. Ruth whispered, He'll come back tomorrow. The man's voice dropped low. And so will the boy. The two sat in silence, listening. The cellar below breathed with unseen steps. The hat on the table seemed heavier than iron, waiting. The night pressed close around the house. The kitchen still smelled of lamp smoke and cellar dust. Ruth stood at the counter, sleeves rolled up, knife tapping against the wood, though no food lay in. Front of her, the man sat at the table, head low, hands clenched, the wedding hat shoved to the far corner. The silence stretched, sharp as the blade. Ruth broke it first. You brought him here. The man looked up, eyes heavy. I didn't. You did. You always do. You drag the past in, sit it at our table, and pretend you don't see it. He rubbed his face. I didn't call him. You don't have to call what you already know. He looked at her. You saw nothing. She dropped the knife, letting it clatter. Don't lie to me. I heard him. His throat tightened. You hear him walk? She whispered. He stared at the floor. I heard it. His voice cracked like wood splitting. Ruth pressed both hands against the counter. Then you know what that means. He shook his head. Number don't start. You can't hide it. The child is blood. You don't know that. I do. She was carrying when she left. Everyone whispered it. You ignored it. You always ignore what doesn't fit your comfort. He slammed his fist against the table. Stop. She didn't flinch. You think you can keep shutting your eyes? It'll vanish? You think silence buries truth? His chest rose fast. There ain't no child here. Then what was in that cellar? He looked toward the door that led down. His jaw tightened. A mistake. Ruth stepped closer, her voice low. Not a mistake. A debt. He turned away. I can't. You will. The lamp hissed. Shadows bent long across the walls. She leaned over the table, eyes hard. You let her walk into the ground with your name. You left her, and if she carried, then it's yours. All of it. His voice cracked. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. He closed his eyes. I can't change it. Number, but you can answer for it. He shot up from the chair, pacing. Answer to who? To ghosts? To you? To the sheriff waiting outside my door? None of them want the truth. They want my blood. Ruth followed his steps with her eyes. Then give them what they fear. Face it. Stop hiding like a boy caught stealing. He stopped at the window. The yard stretched black under the night. If I face it, it'll kill me. She whispered. Maybe that's the only way to live. The words cut deep. He gripped the sill, knuckles white. Ruth came closer. That child isn't here to hurt you. He came holding the hat. He came carrying memories. Maybe he came to remind me. He turned on her, face pale. Remind me of what? Of who you were. His jaw tightened. I was nothing good. You were a husband once. His eyes dropped. I failed her. Yes. Ruth's voice didn't soften. And now her child stands in your cellar, waiting. He pressed both hands to his face. I can't. You will. He lowered his hands slowly. And if he's not real? Ruth tilted her head. Then why does the dust carry his steps? The kitchen went still. Only the faint creak of the house answered. The man dropped back into the chair. He whispered, "He looked right at me." Ruth sat opposite him. Her voice softened but carried steel. "And what did you see in his eyes?" His breath shuddered. "Her." Ruth leaned back, folding her arms. "Then you know." He looked at her with something close to pleading. "What do I do?" "You keep him safe." He shook his head. "Sheriff won't allow it. Governor either. They'll come again." "Then let them. They'll take him." "Not if I stand in the door." His voice rose. "Ruth, I'm not afraid of men who wear badges. I've seen worse. You don't know what they'll do." "I know what they've done." Her tone sharpened. "They starved us, drove us into debt, watched our mother sell herself to survive. And you think I'll bow now?" He stared at her, speechless. Ruth leaned forward, eyes blazing. "If that boy is blood, then he's ours. The sheriff can rot. The governor can choke on his gold. I'll raise my voice till they shut me quiet, but I won't hand him over." The man's face broke, torn between fear and shame. "You'd fight them all." "I already have." His shoulders sagged. He whispered, "You're stronger than me." Ruth didn't answer. The lamp sputtered, then steadied. Finally she spoke, voice low. "You think she cursed you. Maybe she blessed you instead, gave you one last chance." His lips parted, but no words came. Ruth stood, walked to the counter, and picked the knife back up. She set it down with care this time. Her back stayed straight. "Tomorrow they'll come. You'll need to decide." He rubbed his temples. "Decide what?" "Whether you carry him in your arms or let them drag him in chains." His heart thudded. He whispered, "I don't know if I can." "You can. You will." He looked down at the hat, brim bent like a broken circle. The sound came again, faint through the floorboards. Tap, tap. Both turned to the cellar door. Ruth whispered, "He's waiting." The man swallowed hard. "For me?" "For truth," she said. They stared at the cellar door, lamplight flickering against the wood. The man's chest rose and fell, heavy as the silence. He pressed a hand flat on the table, eyes never leaving the door. Ruth leaned close, voice sharp as a blade. "You hear him walk." His throat ached as he whispered back, "I heard it." The silence that followed felt like a judgment. The morning was dull and gray. Ruth stood at the sink, sleeves rolled high, water cold against her hands. The man sat at the table, head down, hat resting between them like it had grown roots. The house felt hushed, as if waiting for something to knock again. The sound came instead from the yard. Hoofbeats, slow, deliberate, carrying weight. Ruth turned her head. "Hear that?" The man didn't lift his face. "I hear it." The hoofbeats stopped just outside. A fist struck the door twice, not hard, but sure. Ruth wiped her hands, strode over, and pulled it open before the man could move. A rider sat tall on a lean horse. His coat bore the mark of the governor's estate. His eyes slid past Ruth, straight to the man. He didn't smile. "Governor's business," the rider said. Ruth blocked the doorway. "Speak it from where you sit." The rider leaned forward slightly. "Old family deeds are being called up. This land sits on papers signed in a different time. The governor says payments due." The man finally raised his head. His voice came rough. "My father paid with his life." The rider's gaze didn't shift. "The governor says otherwise." Ruth folded her arms. "The governor can choke on his words. This land's ours." The rider's mouth twitched like he almost pitied her. "Not for long. Old debts rise, old names too." His eyes flicked to the hat on the table. "Funny thing, seeing that again." The man's jaw clenched. "That ain't your business." "Everything tied to the governor's lines is his business. Even children have gone missing." Ruth's eyes sharpened. "You watch your tongue." The rider smirked. "Truth don't bite softer just because you whisper it." The man stood, voice breaking with heat. "What are you saying?" The rider tilted his head. "I'm saying the governor remembers. He remembers a promise. He remembers a child." The air in the room thickened. Ruth stepped forward. "That boy doesn't belong here." The rider straightened, hat shadowing his face. "Neither do you," she spat. The horse snorted, pawing at the dirt. The rider's eyes narrowed. "The governor's boy will be sent for. You can't hide him." The man's chest rose sharp. "He ain't yours to claim." The rider ignored him. The governor says bloodlines matter more than dirt in barns. He says what's buried will be dug. You think you can keep secrets, but this land doesn't keep anything buried. Ruth's voice cut clean. The governor's words mean nothing here. The rider leaned close in the saddle. Then wait till his men ride through. You'll see how much they mean. He tugged the reins, turned the horse, and started off slow. Dust rose behind him, the sound of hooves dragging through silence. Ruth slammed the door shut. Her face was white with fury. He knew, she said. The man sank back into the chair. Of course he knew. Not just the land. The child. The man rubbed his face. They all whisper it. Sheriff, governor, they're riders. They ain't after dirt. They're after blood. Ruth paced, fists clenched at her sides. Let them come. I'll meet them in the yard. He looked at her broken. They'll crush you. Not before I. Take one down. He shook his head. You don't understand what they want. She stopped. Then tell me. They want to erase us. Her voice dropped. Then we fight to remain. The cellar groaned beneath their feet, a faint sound like shifting weight. They both froze, eyes turning toward the door. Ruth whispered, He hears too. The man's voice cracked. Don't. You can't deny him. I've denied everything. Look where it's led. Ruth came close, gripping the edge of the table. Then stopped denying. Claim what's yours before they steal it. He pressed his hands flat against the wood. If he is mine, he is. If he is mine, he repeated, then I cursed him by breathing. No. Ruth's voice sharpened. You cursed him by leaving him to them. Bring him up. Stand him in the light. Show them he ain't theirs. His eyes closed. You don't know what they'll do to him. Her jaw tightened. I know what they'll do if we don't. The sound came again, faint, from the cellar. Tap, tap. Both turned toward the door. The lamp shook. Ruth's voice dropped to a whisper. He's listening. The man whispered back, so is the governor. The silence stretched. Finally, Ruth straightened. Then we don't hide. Not from ghosts. Not from men. The man's breath hitched. And if it kills us, better honest on the ground than cowards at the table. He looked at her. For the first time in years, her face reminded him of their mother's. Not soft, but unyielding. He lowered his voice. I can't carry this alone. You don't have to. I'll carry it with you. The cellar creaked again, the sound of small steps. The man pressed a hand to his chest. Ruth whispered, Go on. Say it. His voice shook. He's mine. The words filled the room, heavy as stone. The cellar door rattled once, then silence. Ruth's eyes glistened, though her voice stayed hard. Then we'll keep him. The sheriff can choke. The governor can burn. But we'll keep him. The man stared at the hat on the table. Dust shifted along its brim, as if stirred by breath unseen. He whispered, Not anymore. Ruth touched his hand firm. Now and always. They sat in the dim kitchen, listening to the weight of what waited beneath them, and to the hoofbeats fading into distance, carrying threats that would soon return. The land outside stayed still, but both knew the ground itself was rising against them. The night carried smoke before anyone saw the flame. Ruth smelled it first, sharp and bitter through the window cracks. She rushed to the porch. The sky behind the barn flickered red. She shouted back inside, It's burning! The man bolted from the table, nearly knocking over the lamp. They ran across the yard, boots pounding the dirt. By the time they reached the barn doors, fire was licking the beams. Ruth grabbed a bucket, but the man pulled her back. Too far gone. We can't let it fall. It's already falling. The roof groaned as sparks burst upward. The heat shoved them back. Ruth's voice broke. Who did this? The man's eyes scanned the fence line. Shadows moved in the dark, slipping away before the glow revealed them. He clenched his fists. Not an accident. Sheriff's men? Or governors? The barn collapsed inward with a deafening crack. Fire roared, throwing sparks into the night like angry stars. Behind them came the sound of hooves. The sheriff rode up with 2 deputies. His horse stopped sharp at the yard. His face shone orange in the flames. He swung down slowly, eyes on the fire. Rebellion, he said flatly. Ruth snapped. Rebellion. You think we burned our own barn? The sheriff's gaze cut to her. Folks talk. Folks see flames. They'll believe what I tell them. The man stepped forward. This wasn't us. Proof says otherwise. The only proof here is your timing. Ruth shot back. The sheriff ignored her, turned toward the fire, and shook his head like he was disappointed. "Governor's gonna love this. Says you don't respect his hold. Says you're stirring trouble." The man's voice was tight. "We ain't stirred nothing. Fire speaks louder than words." Ruth stepped closer, fists tight at her sides. "Then hear me plain. We didn't light it." The sheriff smirked. "Maybe the dead did." The flames cracked loud like laughter. The deputies stayed silent, eyes flicking between Ruth and the man. A small sound drew Ruth's ear. She turned. Near the edge of the ash heap, the toddler stood, his face lit by fire, shadows dancing across his cheeks. The man's breath caught. Not now. The boy walked slowly, steady, holding the wedding hat. He didn't look afraid. Ruth whispered, "Where'd he—" The boy stopped at the pile of burning wood. He placed the hat down on the glowing ash, laid it careful, like it belonged there. The sheriff saw. His eyes narrowed. "Well, well." The man's heart thudded. "Leave him be." The sheriff's voice sharpened. "That boy doesn't belong to you. Not to her either. Governor's been searching for years for missing kin. Seems I found him." Ruth stepped between the sheriff and the child. "Touch him and you'll bleed." The sheriff's lips curled. "You think you can stop me? Try," Ruth said. The deputies shifted uneasy, glancing at one another. The fire hissed behind them. The sheriff's voice lowered. Dangerous. "It ain't over." Ruth didn't blink. "It never was." Silence stretched. Only the fire spoke, beams snapping as they caved in. The toddler stayed still, eyes fixed on the sheriff, then back to the flames. The hat smoldered, brim curling inward. The sheriff turned slowly to his horse. "Governor'll want a word. I'll give it." He mounted, eyes still fixed on Ruth. "You best be ready when he comes." He yanked the reins. Hooves struck the dirt. Deputies followed, glancing back once before vanishing into the smoke. The yard grew quiet except for the fire's dying roar. Ruth knelt by the boy, pulled him close. His hands were warm from the flames, but steady. She looked at the man. He chose. The man's eyes stayed on the burning hat. "Or he condemned us." The roof gave one last groan, then collapsed into the ash heap. Sparks rose high, floating into the night before fading. Ruth whispered, "They'll be back." The man nodded, voice low. "With more men." She tightened her hold on the boy. "Then let them. We're not giving him up." The man stared at her. "You saw how he looked. The sheriff won't rest." Ruth's voice carried iron. "Neither will I." The flames died slowly, embers glowing like eyes across the ground. The boy's gaze stayed on them, unblinking, as if he saw something neither of them could. The man whispered, almost to himself, "It's starting again." Ruth's answer came sharp, "Number its ending." But the silence that followed felt like neither. The fire still smoldered outside, smoke hanging low over the yard. Ruth carried the boy back inside, her face set hard. The man trailed behind, ash on his clothes, his hands shaking. The wedding hat was gone, burned to curls of black, but the cellar door waited, heavy as ever. Ruth set the boy in a chair, then turned to her brother. "We search." He frowned. "Search what?" "The cellar. It always starts there." He rubbed his temples. "There's nothing left down there but dirt. Dirt hides things. Mother hid things." He stiffened. "Don't." Her eyes cut into him. "She kept us alive. She also sold us off piece by piece." He looked away. "She did what she had to." Ruth moved to the door, yanking it open. "Then let's see what else she had to do." The steps creaked as they descended. The boy stayed in the chair, silent, watching. The cellar air was damp, close. The man lit a lantern, its glow brushing the old beams. Ruth dropped to her knees near the far wall. She pressed her hands to the floorboards. "Here," she whispered. He stepped closer. "How do you know?" "Because I hear her." He froze. Ruth pried her fingers under one loose board. The wood groaned. She pulled until it snapped free. Beneath, a thin bundle wrapped in cloth. She lifted it, set it on the dirt. Her hands trembled. Slowly, she unwrapped it. Inside lay a folded letter, yellowed with years, edges crumbling. Ruth's breath caught. The man whispered, "No." She opened it. The writing was small but clear. Their mother's hand. Ruth read aloud, voice low. "To the governor's kin, the debt is unpaid. I give what I have left, my child." Her throat closed. She swallowed hard and kept reading. "Blood for bread, Do not come for the others." The silence after was crushing. Ruth's voice cracked. She traded blood for bread. The man's eyes burned. His chest heaved. "We're still paying." The lantern hissed. Shadows shook across the walls. Ruth's hands clenched around the letter. All these years she knew, and she let us think we were whole. The man's jaw trembled. "She saved us. She damned us." He turned away, voice raw. "We were starving." "And so she gave away a child?" He pressed his hands to his head. "I didn't know." "You didn't want to know." He spun on her. "Don't put this on me." "You were blind. She carried him. You saw and chose not to see." His voice thundered. "What could I do? I was a boy myself." Ruth stepped closer, letter shaking in her hand. "You could have remembered. You could have asked. Instead, you let silence bury it." He stared at her, face pale, eyes wet. "And now it's unburied." The cellar felt smaller. The boards above creaked like the house itself listened. Ruth looked back at the letter. She thought giving one would save the rest, but the governor never stopped talking. The man whispered, "He'll come for him." Ruth nodded slowly. "Unless we fight." He stared at the letter. "It's proof." "It's death," she answered. They both looked at the hole in the floor where the bundle had lain. Empty now. The man whispered, "We should burn it." Ruth's eyes hardened. "Number we keep it. It'll destroy us." "It'll destroy them." He shook his head. "Sheriff will twist it. The governor will claim it. They'll use it against us." "Not if I use it first." Her voice carried iron. He saw in her eyes the same stubborn fire that burned in their mother. He stepped back, voice weak. "You'll get us killed." Ruth folded the letter carefully, tucking it into her dress. "Better the truth kills us than their lies." The lantern flickered low. From above, the boy's voice carried down, soft but clear. "Mama." Both froze. Ruth whispered, "He spoke." The man's heart pounded. He rushed up the stairs. The boy sat where they'd left him, eyes wide, staring at the cellar door. "What did you say?" the man asked, kneeling. The boy blinked. "Mama." The word hung heavy, breaking the air like a bell. Ruth emerged from the cellar, pale. "He knows." The man's voice cracked. "Know what?" Who she was. The boy's small hand reached toward Ruth's dress, where the letter was hidden. His fingers brushed the fabric, steady. Ruth whispered, "He feels it." The man buried his face in his hands. "We're cursed." Ruth's voice came sharp. "We're chosen." The boy pulled his hand back, eyes falling to the floor. He whispered again, softer, "Mama." The room felt thick with presence, as if someone unseen stood behind them all. The man rose, unsteady. "We can't keep him here. The sheriff will return, governor too." Ruth stood tall, letter close to her chest. "Let them. This house remembers more than they want. This land does too. We'll use it." The man's shoulders sagged. "You'll lead us into ruin." She met his eyes. "I'll lead us to the truth." The boy sat silent again, watching them both. The smoke from the burned barn drifted through the cracks, mingling with the cellar dust. The house felt caught between past and present, unable to let go of either. The man whispered, "Broken." She traded blood for bread. Ruth's voice answered like a blade, "And we'll make them choke on it." The silence after felt final, but not finished. The smoke from the barn still lingered in the air by morning, clinging to the fields. Ruth led the boy across the yard. The man followed, shoulders bent, eyes on the dirt. None of them spoke until they reached the hill behind the house. The old well sat there, a ring of stone-cracked rope long gone. Ruth stopped at the edge. "It's here." The man frowned. "What is?" "What she left behind." He shook his head. "It's dry. Been dry since we were children." "Dry doesn't mean empty." The boy tugged from Ruth's hand. He walked straight to the well, peered over the stones. His small face stayed still, as if listening. The man's chest tightened. "Keep him back." Ruth didn't move. "Let him look." The boy leaned closer. His voice, soft as breath, slipped down into the dark. "Mama." The man staggered a step. "Don't," Ruth whispered. "He hears her." The man grabbed her arm. "Stop this madness. You stop running." The boy reached behind him. In his hand was the hat, burned edges, brim blackened, yet somehow whole again. The man's eyes widened. "Number, that can't be." Ruth's face went pale. He brought it back. The boy held it steady, then dropped it. The hat fell into the darkness, turning end over end, vanishing without a sound. The man lunged forward. "Why'd you let him?" The boy whispered again, eyes fixed on the dark. "Papa." The word cut deep. The man's knees nearly buckled. Ruth whispered, "He knows." His voice broke. "Know what?" "Who he is," she answered. The man pressed his hands against the stone rim, staring down. The well gave nothing back. No splash, no echo, just silence that seemed too alive. He turned on Ruth, voice shaking. "You told him." "I didn't need to. He's a child. He doesn't understand." "He understands more than you ever did." The man grabbed the rim tighter. "If he knows, then he knows what's coming. Governor, sheriff, all of them." "Then let them come," Ruth said flatly. "You don't understand. If he's tied to that letter, if he's tied to her, then they'll never stop." Ruth stepped closer, eyes sharp. "Then we won't stop either." The boy leaned further over, whispering again. The sound that came back was not his own. A woman's voice, faint but clear, rose from the well. "My child." The man recoiled. His breath hitched. "You heard that?" Ruth's face was white. "I did." The boy whispered back, "Mama." The well went silent. The man's chest heaved. "This ain't real." Ruth glared at him. "It's more real than you." He shook his head, stumbling back. "I won't listen. I can't." "You will." His voice cracked. "It's a curse." "No," Ruth said, eyes never leaving the boy. "It's a calling." The boy turned to them, face calm. He pointed at the man. "Papa." The word burned like fire. The man's throat closed. Ruth's voice softened but carried iron. "He chose you, not the sheriff, not the governor. You." The man staggered back another step, shaking his head. I can't carry this." "You already do." The well creaked. The stones shifted, as if something below pushed upward. Dust slid down the cracks. The man's eyes widened. "It's waking." Ruth stepped closer to the rim. It never slept. He grabbed her arm. "We have to leave. Now." She yanked free. "Leave, and where do we go?" "This is ours." "He is ours." The boy leaned over once more, whispering words they couldn't understand. The well gave a low groan, deep and hollow. The man shouted, "Get him away!" But Ruth held the boy close. "He ain't afraid. Why are you?" "Because I know what waits in holes like this." "You know nothing but fear." The stones creaked again. The man stumbled back, hand to his chest. "It'll take us down." Ruth glared at him. "Only if we let it." The boy pulled from her arms, staring into the well one last time. His lips moved, but no sound came. The man whispered, "What's he saying?" Ruth's eyes flicked to the well. "He's naming himself." The silence that followed felt heavy, like earth itself leaning in. The man whispered again, broken, "If he's hers, if he's mine, then he'll be hunted till he's gone." Ruth's voice cut through. "Not if we fight." The boy turned, walked back to her side. His small hand slipped into hers. His face was blank, but his eyes carried something old. Ruth held him tight. "He belongs here, not in the governor's house, not in the sheriff's cell. Here." The man looked at them both, chest rising sharply. "Then the well will protect him." Ruth shook her head. "Number we will." The wind rose, scattering ash across the yard. The well stayed silent now, but its presence pressed on them. The man whispered, "He knows." Ruth looked at the boy. "And now so do you." They turned back toward the house. Behind them, the well sat quiet, but the air carried weight, as if it remembered more than it had given. The boy didn't look back. The yard was still when they came. Hoofbeats broke the morning quiet, steady and hard, carrying dust up from the road. Ruth stood at the porch, the boy behind her, the man by her side, though he shifted like his legs might give out. 3 riders slowed at the gate, the sheriff in front, 2 deputies at his flanks, their eyes sharp, their horses restless. The sheriff swung down first. His boots struck the ground like he wanted them to echo. He lifted his gaze to the porch. "Bring the boy," he said flatly. Ruth's arms folded. "No." The sheriff stepped closer. "You don't get to choose." "I already did." His eyes narrowed. "You're hiding behind blood that doesn't belong to you." Ruth's voice sharpened. "Belongs more to us than to you." The sheriff looked past her at the boy. His lips tightened. "Governor says that child's kin to his line. You hand him over now, maybe you can walk free." The man's voice cracked. "He's not yours." The sheriff turned slow. "Did I ask you?" The man lowered his eyes, shame burning on his face. Ruth stepped down one stair. Her hand held something at her side. She lifted it. The hat. Blackened, brim curled from fire. The sheriff stopped, his eyes fixed on it. "You should have burned that," he muttered. Ruth held it steady. "Maybe I kept it to bury you with." The deputies shifted uneasily. One whispered, "Sheriff." The sheriff silenced him with a look. His voice dropped heavy. "You move. I'll bury you too." Ruth's eyes didn't blink. "Try." The silence that followed cut deeper than shouts. The boy stepped closer behind her, a small hand gripping her dress. The sheriff's eyes caught the movement. His jaw clenched. He spat in the dirt. "You think standing there makes you strong. Governor's got more men than you got words." Ruth's voice came cold. "Men rot. Words remain." The sheriff's face flushed. He stepped closer to the stairs. "One more chance. Hand him over." Ruth raised the hat higher. "You want him? You step through me." The sheriff sneered. "I will." The man's voice broke sharp. "Stop!" Everyone turned. He stood trembling, fists clenched. "Don't touch her. Don't touch him. This ends with me." Ruth snapped back. "Number this ends with the truth." The sheriff's grin returned. "Truth is, your family sold him long ago. The governor's got the letter. He'll wave it in your face before you hang." Ruth's eyes narrowed. "You don't have it." The sheriff smirked. "We'll find it." Her voice sharpened. "You'll find nothing but dirt." The boy whispered, barely heard, "Papa." The man's knees weakened. His breath caught. Everyone froze at the sound. The sheriff's eyes widened. He spoke. Ruth stepped forward fast, blocking their view. "He speaks only to us." The sheriff's voice hardened. "That boy just sealed his own fate. The governor wants him alive. I'll take him one way or another." Ruth's jaw tightened. "Not today." The sheriff's hand went to his gun. The deputies stiffened, waiting. The air crackled. The man stepped off the porch, shaky but fierce. "You draw. You'll have to shoot me first." The sheriff laughed low. "Gladly." Ruth's voice cut like steel. "You lay a hand on him, you'll answer to every grave this land holds. You think they sleep quietly? They don't. They remember." The sheriff glared at her. "You sound like your mother." Ruth's eyes blazed. "Better her voice than yours." The boy tugged her hand, whispering again. No one caught the words. The sheriff leaned closer. "This ain't over." Ruth raised the burned hat, brim black against the morning light. "It never was." The deputies shifted, one uneasy. "Sheriff, maybe—" "Shut it!" the sheriff snapped. The man's chest rose hard. His voice cracked. "Leave, now." The sheriff studied them all, eyes lingering on the boy, then the hat. Finally he spat again, turned, and mounted his horse. His last words came sharp. "Governor will hear. Next time, I won't ask." He yanked the reins. The deputies followed, their horses kicking dirt as they left. Silence returned. The yard felt heavier than before. Ruth lowered the hat slowly, her hands trembling now. The boy clung to her leg. She breathed deep, steadying herself. The man dropped to the porch steps, face pale. "We can't hold them off forever." Ruth looked at him, voice low but unshaken. "We don't have to. We just have to hold long enough." "Long enough for what?" he whispered. She touched the boy's head. "For him to know who he is." The man buried his face in his hands. "They'll kill us." "Then let them try." The boy lifted his face to her. She smiled faintly, though her eyes were wet. "You're safe here," she whispered to him. The man looked up at the burned hat in Ruth's hand. The brim curled like a question left unanswered. He whispered, "It's not over." Ruth's answer came sharp, certain. "It never was." The boy leaned against her side, silent again. The porch creaked under their weight. The land around them held still, but the air promised a storm. The night was moonless, the ground lit only by the lantern Ruth carried. The boy walked between them, his small hand in hers. The man trailed close behind, shoulders hunched, eyes darting like every shadow might rise against them. The hill loomed above the barn's ruins, a dark hump against the sky. They climbed slowly, the lantern's glow swinging across the grass. The man muttered under his breath, "Ain't nothing up here but dirt." Ruth didn't turn. "Dirt keeps more than you think." The boy said nothing. His eyes stayed fixed on the crest of the hill as though he knew what waited. They reached the top. The land flattened, bare patches of ground scattered with stones. No names carved. No crosses, just mounds. The man's breath hitched. I remember this place. Ruth raised the lantern higher. The light brushed over uneven earth. You should. You dug some of it. His throat tightened. Father made me. Ruth's voice hardened. Father made all of us. Don't wash the dirt off your hands. He stepped back. These are just graves. Ruth shook her head. These ain't just graves. His voice rose. Then what are they? She stared down at the nearest mound, her jaw tight. Warnings. The boy tugged her hand, eyes wide. Mama. The man groaned. Don't let him say that here. Ruth ignored him. She knelt by the mound. This is where he hid what he couldn't carry. The man paced, his voice rough. I don't want to hear it. You will. He stopped, pointing at the earth. You think Father buried secrets. He buried shame. He buried debts. Ruth's eyes flicked up. Same thing. The boy knelt beside her, small fingers brushing the dirt. He whispered something low, too soft to hear. The earth seemed to breathe under his hand. The man shuddered. Stop him. Ruth placed her free hand over the boy's. Let him speak. The ground gave a faint groan, shifting slightly. The man stumbled back. You hear that? Ruth nodded. The land remembers. The boy whispered again, louder this time. Papa! The man's chest seized, his knees buckled, and he sank against a stone. Number not here, not now. Ruth's voice carried sharp through the dark. You can't run from blood. He pressed his face into his hands. I didn't know. I didn't want to. You never do, she said. He looked up, eyes red. You think he buried children here? Ruth's lips tightened. I know he did. The man's voice cracked. Ours. Ruth's silence was answer enough. The boy pressed his ear to the mound as though listening. His face stilled. He lifted his head, eyes glassy. Voices. The man's breath rattled. He hears them. Ruth nodded slowly. So do I. The wind shifted, carrying faint sounds like whispers too low to catch. The grass swayed around the mounds. The man clutched his chest. We shouldn't be here. Ruth's eyes stayed fixed on the boy. We needed to be. The boy stood, pointed at another mound farther off. There. Ruth lifted the lantern and walked to it. The earth there was darker, sunken deeper. She crouched, touched the soil. This one was fresh when we were children. I remember Father's shovel. The man staggered closer, his voice trembling. He told me it was a calf. He lied, Ruth said. The boy whispered again. Baby. The man's eyes widened, his voice broke. No. Ruth's jaw set. Yes. The boy turned to the man, his small voice steady. Papa. The man's face crumpled. He dropped to his knees before the mound. I can't bear this. Ruth stood tall above him. You will, because this is what made us. This is what they used to bind us. The whispers in the wind grew stronger, faint cries, faint words, too many voices layered. The man clutched at the earth, digging with bare hands. Dirt filled his nails. He sobbed, raw. Why? Why bury them? Ruth's voice cut hard. To buy power. To keep his place under the governor. To feed the debts he made. The man looked up. Tears streaked across his face. Then we're cursed by him. Not her. Him. Ruth shook her head. Both. But she tried to save us. He only saved himself. The boy bent down, scooping dirt in his small hands. He let it fall slowly, whispering again. The ground gave another groan. The mound shifted slightly. The man jumped back. It's moving. Ruth didn't flinch. Because it remembers. The boy's whisper carried clear this time. Mama. The air grew heavy, pressing into their chests. The man gasped. We need to leave. Ruth held the lantern higher. Her eyes shone fiercely. We stay. We face it. The man staggered, clutching her arm. We'll die up here. Ruth pulled free. Then we die knowing. The boy turned to them both, his face lit by the lantern. He looked older for a moment, his eyes carrying something ancient. He whispered one word. Truth. The whispers in the wind ceased. Silence fell, sharp and sudden. The man trembled, his breath ragged. What truth? Ruth looked down at the mounds. That we're not alone in this fight. That the dead won't rest until we end what they started. The man shook his head, voice broken. I can't carry that. You already do, Ruth said. The boy slipped his hand into hers again. His small fingers were steady. She lifted the lantern, turning toward the path down. Come, she said. The man hesitated, then followed, his face hollow. He looked back once at the hill, the unmarked mounds in the dark. The earth seemed to breathe, alive with memory. He whispered, "Warnings!" Ruth's voice carried from ahead. Exactly. They descended, the lantern light swaying. Behind them, the graves stayed still, but the air pressed heavy, as if watching. The boy didn't look back. The yard filled before dawn. Lanterns swung from posts. Horses stamped the dirt. Neighbors came first, faces hard, whispers low. Then the sheriff rode in, deputies close behind. Last came the governor's men, coats dark, rifles at their shoulders. Ruth stood on the porch with the boy at her side. The man lingered behind her, pale, shoulders bent, eyes on the ground. The air felt heavy, like the land itself leaned in to listen. The sheriff's voice carried sharp. "Bring them down." Ruth didn't move. "You want me? Come take me." The crowd murmured. Men shifted. Women crossed their arms. The sheriff smirked. "You stand proud, Ruth. But the governor calls for reckoning." Her voice cut through the noise. "This land remembers." The crowd stilled. The man whispered behind her, voice raw. "So do I." The sheriff's smile faded. "You admit guilt, then?" The man stepped forward, shaky. "I admit nothing but memory." The governor's rider barked. "That's enough. Hand the boy over." "The governor claims his blood." Ruth pulled the child close. "He's not yours." The rider sneered. "He belongs to his line." Ruth's eyes burned. "His line runs through us." The sheriff raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "Neighbors, hear me. These two harbor a child not theirs. They defy the governor's word. What do you say?" Murmurs rose. Some shouted, "Give him up." Others stayed silent, eyes cast down. Ruth lifted her voice above them. "You think this land forgets? Look at the graves on the hill. Look at the well that doesn't sleep. Our fathers traded blood. Our mothers sold silence. And now you stand here, pretending clean." A man in the crowd spat. "Debt's debt." Ruth's voice cracked like a whip. "Debt's a chain. You want to wear it? I don't." The sheriff glared. "Your tongue will hang you." Ruth held the boy higher. "Better my tongue than his neck." The crowd stirred, uneasy. The man stepped forward, his voice shaking but firm. "This land remembers every deal, every child buried without name. And so do I." The sheriff barked. "You think memory protects you?" The man met his eyes. "It condemns you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The governor's rider pushed his horse closer. "Enough. The boy's coming with me." Ruth blocked his path. Her voice dropped, cold and final. "Over my body." The rider leaned down, snarling. "That can be arranged." The sheriff stepped closer, hand on his gun. "Ruth, don't make me." She lifted the burned hat high, black brim curling. "This hat saw more truth than your badge ever did. You want him, you'll wear this to your grave." The sheriff froze. The crowd whispered, unsettled. The boy clutched her hand tighter, his small voice carrying clear. "Papa." The yard went silent. All eyes turned to the man. His face broke. He staggered forward, voice raw. "He's mine." The crowd gasped. The rider shouted, "Then he's proof." The governor was right. The man's voice rose, cracked but fierce. "Proof of what you all buried. Proof of what your fathers did. You think the governor owns him? He doesn't. He belongs to the blood that bore him. He belongs here." The sheriff snarled. "You'll die for this." Ruth's eyes locked on his. "So will you." The crowd shifted again. Whispers turned to arguments. Some pointed, some nodded, some cursed. The yard boiled with noise. The governor's rider raised his gun. "Enough talk." The boy spoke again, louder this time. "Mama." The rider froze. The sound carried like a knife through the yard. Women in the crowd lowered their eyes. Men shifted, uneasy. The word weighed too much to ignore. Ruth lifted the child higher. "You hear him? He didn't call for governor. He doesn't call for the sheriff. He calls for what you tried to bury. And it rises now." The man's voice joined hers, broken but steady. "So do I." The sheriff's face flushed red. He pulled his gun, leveling it at the porch. "This ends here." Ruth stepped forward, hat in one hand, boy in the other. "Then shoot. Let them all see what side you stand on." The crowd fell silent again. All eyes locked on the sheriff. His hand shook, though his glare stayed hard. The man whispered, just loud enough, "Go on, Sheriff. Show them you fear a woman more than a governor." The sheriff's jaw clenched. His finger twitched on the trigger. A woman in the crowd shouted, "Leave them be." Another voice followed, "She speaks the truth." The sheriff turned, furious. "Quiet!" But the crowd was no longer quiet. Voices rose, arguments spilling into shouts. Some sided with Ruth, others demanded the boy's surrender. The yard turned restless, divided. Ruth's voice cut through it all. "This land remembers. Every child, every grave, every debt, and so will he. You can kill us, but you can't kill what we remember." The man stepped beside her. His voice carried sharpness. "And I remember too." The sheriff lowered his gun slowly, eyes burning with hate. "This ain't over," Ruth answered coldly. "It never was." The crowd broke, some turning away, some lingering, the argument spilling into the dark. The governor's rider sneered, spurred his horse, and vanished down the road. Deputies followed, silent, eyes low. The sheriff mounted last, his glare never leaving the porch. He spat in the dirt. "Next time, no talk." He rode off, the sound of hooves fading into the night. Silence settled heavily. The lanterns flickered in the dark yard. The crowd thinned until none remained. Ruth set the boy down. He clung to her leg, eyes still wide. The man leaned against the porch post, his body trembling. "We can't hold them off forever." Ruth touched the boy's head. "We don't need forever. We just need enough." The man whispered, voice cracked. "This land remembers." Ruth looked at him, eyes hard. "And now so do you." The governor came at dusk. His carriage rolled heavy down the dirt road, wheels groaning like bones. Riders flanked both sides, rifles upright. Neighbors watched from fences, silent, faces half hidden. The air itself seemed to draw back as the horses stopped at the yard. Ruth stood on the porch with the boy in her arms. The man lingered beside her, pale, unsteady. The governor stepped down, his coat rich, his eyes colder than the sheriff's ever were. He looked at the child first, not Ruth, not the man. He spread his hands. "At last." Ruth's grip tightened. "Stay back." The governor's voice cut smooth, sharp as glass. "He belongs with me." "No." Ruth's voice cracked like a whip. She held the boy tighter. The governor stepped forward. His men didn't move. His smile was thin. "You hold what is mine, my kin, my blood." The man muttered low, almost to himself. "Yours by theft, not birth." The governor's head turned. His eyes pinned him. "You speak?" The man forced himself taller. "He ain't yours." The governor's smile vanished. "Do you know the cost of your father's bargains? He gave me blood to pay his debts. He gave me what he thought was worthless. The child was promised." Ruth spat at the dirt between them. "Promises don't mean ownership." The governor's voice darkened. "Blood for blood. That was the oath. That was the debt. And I come to collect." The boy stirred, small hand clutching Ruth's dress. She held him closer, eyes never leaving the governor. "You'll have to tear him from me." The governor's brow arched. "I will, unless you choose wisely." The man's chest heaved. "You don't choose us." The governor raised a hand, silencing the riders behind him. His voice lowered, meant for the porch alone. "This is not about choice. This is about law, older than your graves. Your mother wrote it herself." Ruth's face hardened. "We found her letter." The governor's smile returned, sharp. "Then you know. She sealed the debt with ink and womb. One life for bread, one child for her name." The man's voice shook. "She was starving." The governor's eyes glinted. "And I fed her. I fed you. That's the bargain you live on." Ruth stepped forward, boy in her arms. Her voice carried steel. "She gave him away to save us. That doesn't make him yours. That makes him ours twice over." The governor's face grew still. "Careful." The boy whispered, soft but clear. "Papa." The governor froze. His eyes snapped to the man. His face twisted. "He calls you that." The man's throat tightened. "Because I am." The governor's voice rose, sharp. "Number he is mine. Mine by law, by promise, by blood." Ruth shouted back. "Blood doesn't make a father. Hands do. Hearts do. And you have neither." The governor's men shifted, uneasy at her words. The governor snarled. "You dare defy me?" Ruth stepped down one stair, clutching the boy higher. "I've done nothing but." The man's voice cracked. Take me instead." The governor turned slow, studied him. "You offer your own blood?" "Yes." His hands shook, but his voice stayed firm. "Take me." "Leave him." The governor smirked, cruel. "I have no need for a broken man." Ruth's voice tore through. "Then you'll have nothing." The governor's eyes burned. "You'll regret this." Ruth's grip didn't falter. "Not as much as you will." The boy pressed his face into her shoulder. The governor took one step, closer, but the sheriff's absence weighed heavily. His riders waited, restless. The man whispered to Ruth. "He won't stop," she answered through clenched teeth. "Neither will we." The governor's voice boomed. "This is your final warning. Blood for blood. That's the debt. Refuse it, and I'll burn this land down to ash." Ruth raised her chin. "Do it. The land will rise against you. It remembers." The governor sneered, turned back to his carriage. His last words dropped like stones. "Then you'll pay double." He mounted, his riders closing around him. The wheels groaned as the carriage rolled away. Dust rose, swallowing him back into the night. The yard went silent. The man sank onto the steps, face hollow. "He'll kill us all." Ruth clutched the boy tighter. "Not if we kill the debt first." The man looked up, eyes broken. "How?" Ruth's gaze stayed on the road where the governor had gone. "By standing." The boy whispered once more, "Mama." Ruth's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steel. Not his. Not ever. The house was still when they returned. The boy clung to Ruth's hand. The man walked behind them, his face drawn tight, each step heavier than the last. The cellar door waited at the far end of the room, its wood darker than before, like it had soaked up every secret. The boy let go of Ruth. He crossed the floor alone, quiet, steady, his small fingers pressed against the cellar door. The man whispered, "Don't let him." Ruth's voice came low. "He decides now." The boy pushed the door open. The smell of earth rose, damp and old. The lantern light stretched down the stairs, shaking against the stone. The man muttered, "Not again." But the boy descended, one small step at a time. Ruth followed. The man, trembling, came last. The cellar air closed in, heavy and still. At the far wall, on a crate, sat the wedding hat, whole again, clean as though fire had never touched it. The man froze. Impossible. The boy walked straight to it. He lifted it with both hands. The weight seemed too much, but he held firm. Ruth whispered. It returned. The boy turned to the man. His small arms lifted the hat toward him. The man stepped back. No. The boy didn't lower it. His eyes stayed locked on the man. Ruth's voice sharpened. "Take it." The man's chest heaved. "I buried it. I burned it. I saw it fall. And yet it stands." Ruth said. The boy stepped closer. His arms shook under the weight. Still, he held it out. The man whispered, "Why me?" Ruth answered, "Because you're his father." The man's voice cracked. "I don't deserve it." Ruth's eyes glistened. "None of us do. But it's here." The boy pushed the hat against the man's chest. The man caught it, hands trembling. He stared at it like it might bite. Ruth whispered, "Put it on." He shook his head. "I can't." "You must." The boy spoke, voice small but clear. "Papa." The word broke him. His knees gave, and he sank to the dirt. He lifted the hat, slow, hesitant. Then, with a shuddering breath, he set it on his head. The cellar stilled. The whispers stopped. The walls no longer groaned. The air grew light, empty of its weight. Ruth covered her mouth, tears spilling. The boy stepped close, placing his hand on the man's shoulder. The man whispered, "It's over." Ruth lowered her hand. Her voice cut through the silence. "Not over." Remembered. The cellar door slammed above. Heavy boots struck the floor. The sheriff's voice bellowed down. "Enough hiding." The man rose, hat on his head. He climbed the stairs, the boy and Ruth close behind. The sheriff stood in the kitchen, deputies at his back. His badge gleamed faint in the dusk light through the window. His gun was drawn, but his hand shook. He stared at the man. "That hat." The man's voice came steady now. "Mine." The sheriff's lips tightened. "You think wearing it makes you clean?" The man stepped closer. "It makes me whole." The sheriff raised the gun, but his eyes faltered. Slowly he lowered it. His hand shook as he unclipped the badge from his chest. He set it on the table. "I ain't dying for the governor," he muttered. "Not for debts I never made." The deputies exchanged looks, then backed away. The door swung open again. The governor entered, coat heavy, eyes burning. He saw the hat, saw the boy, saw Ruth's tears. His face twisted. "You think this ends with symbols?" His voice thundered. "Blood for blood. I still claim him." The boy pressed closer to Ruth. She held him tight. "Number he stays." The governor's eyes locked on the man. "You're too weak to stop me." The man's voice didn't shake. "Maybe, but the land will." The governor sneered. "The land is mine." Ruth's voice cracked through like a whip. "Number, the land remembers, and it remembers what you took from it. It remembers every grave, every bargain, every lie." The boy lifted his small hand, pointing at the governor. His lips moved, one word slipping out. "Thief!" The governor flinched. His face drained pale. The man stepped forward, hat shadowing his eyes. "Go. Ride away before the ground swallows you whole." The governor's mouth twisted. He turned, furious, and stormed out. His men followed, silent, their eyes lowered. The sheriff stayed by the door, staring at the badge on the table. He whispered, "It's done for me." The man answered flatly, "It's done for all of us." The sheriff nodded once, then left. The sound of hooves faded into dusk. Silence filled the house again. Ruth sank into a chair, holding the boy in her lap. Tears streaked her face, but her voice carried steady. "You did it." The man removed the hat, set it gently on the table. "I only wore what was mine." Ruth met his eyes. "And you claimed him." The boy leaned against her chest, already closing his eyes. His breathing slowed, calm at last. The man's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's over." Ruth stroked the boy's hair. "Not over. Remembered." The dusk deepened outside. The last light slipped through the window, brushing the hat where it rested. For the first time, the house felt still. No whispers, no groans, only the sound of breath. The man closed his eyes, his hand flat on the table. The boy slept against Ruth, safe, heavy with peace. The land outside stretched quiet, but the graves, the well, the cellar, all remembered, and for once remembering was enough.